Thanks for being with us on the Marketplace as we continue to deep dive during the NBL free agency period. We've been looking at the teams and what they have so far, and then posing the question what they need to do between now and the start of NBL 24. I'm Jack Heverin, as always, alongside the Professor Pete Hooley. Hools, I'm fascinated to talk about our two teams today, in particular the Brisbane Bullets. It feels like a big rebuild both on and off the court for this team.
Well, it needed to happen, really, didn't it? You blow it up after last season, so disappointing. There's no hiding the fact that happened. And I like that you kind of don't just pretend it never happened. You go into it, Justin Schuler taking over and say, look, we got to start again. And they have done that. I know they're going to keep Sobey, they keep Bannon, but you've got your two building blocks there. You bring in Justin Schuler, you bring in D-Max, so you bring in that experience as well. And now you start to really put the puzzle piece together. And things are actually looking really good. Yeah. And I've heard Olgun talk about it. You've got your core bench. They've got the bench sorted as we look at the depth chart. They've got that culture group settled in terms of a trust guys. They're on multi-year contracts as well, where you know where you're going to get from them. Isaac White deserves this opportunity. Mitch Norton, I think, is a huge signing for the Bullets because of what you get in terms of off the floor. Apparently had a lot of conversations with Bannon. So exciting things to say in Brisbane. I know Brisbane fans are thinking, I don't want to hear that again, but it really is an exciting roster what they're putting together outside of what they're missing so far.
So we saw with the depth chart what they have so far. I'm interested in the 4 spot. We've spoken a lot about the 4 spot already here on Marketplace. Josh Bannon and DJ Mitchell, two very, very exciting local talents.
Yeah, and it's one of those opportunities where Justin Schuler, I'm sure, is going in with a bit of an open mind, saying, I'm going to see how things go early. We know what DJ Mitchell did last year. We haven't seen Bannon yet. But kind of figure it out. Let's fight out to see who deserves a starting role. They might play very close, similar minutes in games, but two guys who do have a huge ceiling ahead. I like what we saw in DJ Mitchell last year when he was locked in. When he wasn't locked in, it was a bit on the other side, but maybe that competition with Bannon is something that's going to really help his game continue to grow, and that's a good problem for Justin Schuler to have.
Just on the Mitch Norton acquisition, so Jason Kadee not with the Bullets, he'll be with Adelaide in this upcoming season, which we've spoken about. A culture guy, Mitch Norton, which I think, after everything that's gone on with Brisbane, that's pretty important.
It is, but it's also one of those players that you look at the roster they had last year, even the last couple of years they've been down, who can turn a game based on their presence alone. There's only a few of them in the league, and I'm talking not with the ball in their hand, not scoring, not even doing anything, but first man on the floor no matter what the score is, up and in, taking charges, putting their body on the line. You're talking about a guy, he's Damian Martin in terms of he's going to break a finger every game, he's going to draw blood, he's going to do all that, and he's going to really have that culture humming, which is what they need. So that's why I said that's a really important signing for the Bullets.
Normally we talk about, and I ask you what does a team need, and I will ask you what their biggest priority was, but Justin Schuler's kind of already answered the question for us with their depth chart. He spoke with Liam Santamaria on the Huddle podcast, and they've been pretty open with what they still need to finish off this roster. The import point guard, that's the biggest priority for Justin Schuler?
Well, no doubt it's been their priority for a few years now, but there's a name that's been floating around that I think is pretty close to maybe going to becoming a Brisbane Bullet. We talk about players going from state to state, interstate and staying within. Shannon Scott popping up potentially as a Brisbane Bullet, which again, you think about what he did last year for the Taipans, I think he'd be a great fit alongside Sobey. He went quiet at times with the roster they had last year, but when a player went down, boy, did he stand up. I'm talking about the 30-point games, the big assist games. You think about what they've needed in that point guard spot alongside Sobey in the backcourt. All of a sudden, you think, throw the name Shannon Scott in there.
Makes sense. It does.
It's something that would work really well. So that's a name that I've heard thrown up, and if that's something that comes to fruition with the Bullets, plenty to be excited about for Brisbane and Justin Schuler.
Last one on the Bullets. What sort of coach will Justin Schuler be? He's someone that you know and you've worked with before. What sort of style will he bring to this team?
It's interesting because when he coached me, he was a lot different to where he's at now. That was a few years ago, and I was just watching a couple of United practices last year. He's become a way bigger vocal presence, and I think he's almost been preparing himself for this transition to a head coaching role. Yep. Not as easy to do, mind you. And I'm talking about Adam Ford went to Cairns, and we know he started it in Sydney. Going from an assistant coach in the NBL to a head coach takes a lot of transition. When you're a player's coach, as that assistant coach, players come to you, you're doing individuals. Now you're more of that head coach role. It does take a little bit of time, but I think he's been preparing himself where he's not going to take any crap. He's going to really set his foot down from the start. James Duncan said that last year in the preseason. It looked good, but then it obviously didn't work out. I think Justin Schuler is going to be one of those guys from day one as soon as he steps down.
I think the biggest positive is there's lots of good vibes for Brisbane Bullets supporters, which is exciting. Let's have a look at the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, another team with a new coach, Mike Kelly, a former coach of the year, coming in to take the reins after Simon Mitchell did a great job with this team. I guess from a depth chart point of view, Pete, it's always a good starting point when you've got Alan Williams and Mitch Creek locked away.
Yeah, they've got their two, I guess, figureheads locked in, and you need that. Mitch Creek's been their franchise player to be able to retain his services. There was a little bit of talk maybe last couple of years, will he move on and try and go elsewhere? They've got Mitch Creek sorted. Alan Williams is a big one because now you've got your two big pieces. Now it's just about nailing those other three starting spots. Does look bare, but again, the depth chart is something I think to get excited about a little bit. Owen Foxwell, he's a kid who deserves his opportunity. He got that. He got his multi-year contract after having a really good development period under Simon Mitchell. Matt Kenyon, I think, is a good signing for a team notorious for not being locked in defensively.
Yes.
So that's a team that's been unbelievable on the offensive end. Defensively, have just never put it together consistently enough. You know you're going to get that from Matt Kenyon. Tarangi, hopefully he can stand out. But actually, the most exciting thing for me with the Phoenix are their backup bigs. Reece Vague is a tremendous signing to get him back from what he was playing overseas, to have him locked in. He's looked great in the green and gold when he's been playing. And then Gak, I've been really high on Gak. So you've got Gak and Williams. I think they're going to be a great duo to play with and play against. And then Reece Vague. So that big man position, perfectly filled. Now they've got to nail the rest.
Is it fair to say, and I say this in a good way, that Gorjok Gak could be the biggest unknown of NBL 24 because we saw glimpses of what it could look like and we saw glimpses of his potential. Now he comes into a situation where he's going to be given a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to find no bigger supporter than Gorjak Gak than me. That was me last season, but he's a guy that you don't have to worry about. You throw him out there, you tell him he's going to get dump-off dunks, but he's going to rip down as many rebounds as he's allowed to be on the floor for. And behind Alan Williams, that's going to really help him, and they're going to go at it in practice. I'm really excited to see how he plays under Mike Kelly. He's going to get plenty of opportunity to do so. And as I said, they've got those four pieces locked in. Now it's really about nailing the rest of the starting group.
Well, let's talk about what they don't have. Gary Brown was injured at times last season. He and Mitch Creek have developed a really nice friendship. They're playing together in Puerto Rico as we speak right now. Would you look at bringing a Gary Brown back or go in a different direction at the one?
No, I think you'd be looking potentially to bring him back. Again, it depends on what happens with the other positions, and there's no key Aussie local point guards left. We know what happened with Will McDowell-White, but in terms of that massive signing to start and to lead a team, you've got someone who understands the league. And when he was on. But what other pieces do you put around him? I think that's where you've got to look at. If you're having that conversation with Gary Brown, well, what are we going to put around him to be successful with Creek and Williams? I know there's still conversations going on with Ryan Brockhoff. Are they going to have a talk to him and try and get him back? They've still got to nail a couple more spots, but it's a good starting piece. It's just, I think a lot of Southeast Melbourne fans are thinking, we're getting late in free agency period. Where are we at? I know they're going to head over to Summer League. They're doing some exciting things with getting fans on board to have a look at that. But they're going to have to really nail that import point guard spot.
An interesting one with this team. So Mitch Creek scorer, Alan Williams total scorer. He showed that last season. Should they be looking at a Justin Simon, Antonius Cleveland type who can play a really big defensive role for them?
You'd say yes, because again, defense has been the issue. I don't think it will be necessarily. I think Mike Kelly's going to come in and understand where they've been at in terms of the players that have been there before. But you also know you have got... So Matt Kenyon is a straight defender, and offense doesn't come as easy for him, but he's an elite on the defensive end. It's hard because you kind of want to have a bit of both. Antonius Cleveland would be a great fit, but maybe that's the conversation you pick up the phone and call Rajon Tucker. Because you know what Rajon Tucker can do? Came on really, really strong in the back end of last season. He can lock up defensively when he wants to as well, and he can also be electrifying on the wing. You get a Rajon Tucker type, and then you have that conversation of, okay, maybe this goes well with Gary Brown. We can get up and down the floor. You've got one of the best, if not the best, power forwards in the league now. Xavier Cooks is gone with Mitch Creek, and all of a sudden things are starting to look nice in the heartland.
Wouldn't that be very, very interesting if Rajon Tucker went from black to green for NBL 24? Pete, great work by you as always. We've still got a little bit more to do, so I'll catch you next time.
Sounds good.
Thanks for being with us on The Marketplace. Of course, you can stay up to date right throughout the free agency period on nbl.com.au and all of the NBL social media platforms. Up next, we take a look at the Cairns Taipans, the Jack Jumpers, and also Melbourne United.